The series begins with Anne, who works in a global luxury store. One day, the workload is extremely heavy. A customer comes in to buy a watch, so she shows him the most luxurious one she has, the one fully encrusted with diamonds. He tries it on his wrist, but then asks to see a different model and ends up buying that one instead. At the end of the day, when the employees are doing inventory, they notice that the diamond watch is missing. Anne explains that she was responsible for that section today, and they all go to check the security cameras. They see the customer leaving the store with the diamond watch in his hand. What's strange is that he had covered the surveillance camera directly, showing he knew exactly where it was and didn't care. The employees say they'll inform the manager or even the police, but Anne remembers that earlier that day, the CEO she knows greeted this same customer, so she tells her coworkers not to report it and says she can reach him and get the watch back. She manages to obtain his factory business card. He turns out to be an extremely powerful and influential man in the country named Gene. She goes to his factory and meets him, and he greets her calmly. He tells her, "I never said the watch is with me, sweetheart, I gave it to someone as a gift. If they like it, I'll buy it immediately." And tells him, "If the watch doesn't return today, sweetheart, you'll have to buy it according to store policy." He replies, "No problem, you'll get an answer today." She gives him her card and leaves. At the end of the day, he sends her an address. She goes to him and he gives her the watch. When she examines it carefully, she notices a scratch on the strap. She tells him the strap is scratched, so it can't be resold to another customer. She says she can sell him only the strap, and he agrees and buys it. He also asks her to sit and talk with him. Her friend Sue calls her at that moment, but Anne cancels the call. She says Sue is a writer and illustrator who loves writing children's stories that always end happily, although happy endings don't seem to come easily for her in real life. Gene is looking at a watch hanging on the wall, and there is sadness in his expression. He tells Anne to choose another watch another time. She understands and leaves immediately. The next day, while she's working, she sees Sue's husband in the store. He buys her a necklace as a gift and greets Anne before leaving. Anne remembers she still hasn't returned Sue's call from yesterday and intends to call her soon. Just then a client calls for her. Anne goes to the fitting room and finds a woman sitting on the floor asking for help closing her dress. When Anne helps her, she sees that the woman's back is covered in bruises. The woman looks at her and says she felt something different about her, and is about to talk to her when the woman's husband arrives. He takes his wife and tries to leave, and suggests taking the woman to the shoe section so she can help her privately, but the husband refuses and says, "You know her size, just send whatever she needs to the house." He takes his wife and leaves. The woman looks at Anne in a way that silently asks for help, but Anne is unable to do anything. And then meets her manager, who tells her that the woman's husband left gifts worth $500,000 for her, saying, "This is for how you helped my wife today." She is shocked because she didn't really do anything. She finishes her shift and goes to her training, but she is mentally distracted and keeps thinking, "So he paid me in exchange for my silence. Honestly, that helped me understand pretending to be stupid is sometimes useful." She becomes upset with herself. When she goes to the locker room to change her clothes, she struggles to open her locker. It's clear she has unpleasant memories from childhood. She finds a message from her brother reminding her that tomorrow is their mother's birthday. She goes home and calls her. The next day, she goes to her parents' house to celebrate. They all sit and eat together, her mother, her father, her brother and her. In the middle of eating, her father asks for the cake. Her mother tells him it's too early because they are still eating lunch. He gets angry and speaks to her harshly. Anne notices everything.
After they finish, they celebrate the birthday. Later, Anne goes to her room, but she hears raised voices. She goes out and hears them fighting and the sound of hitting. She rushes into their room, shouting at her father, asking if he's still beating her mother, and telling him he knows her mother once attempted suicide because of him. She remembers when she was still a student and came home one day to find her mother trying to the next day. She took her father in her car under the pretense of driving him to work, but instead brought him to the police station. She told him he needed to turn himself in and confess everything he has done. Then she left him there and walked away. While walking, she remembers being in school and how her friends would play near the windows, but she has trauma about windows. She would rush to them and close all of them tightly. Her friends were confused, but Sue understood her and always calmed her down. Anne remembers she still hasn't spoken to Sue, So she goes to her house and leaves her message saying she came to see her. She rings the doorbell but gets no answer. Then she finds a package delivered to Sue's door. She is about to leave when she sees Sue open the door, take the package, and shut the door immediately. Anne runs to her and rings again. She hears Sue's phone ringing inside. She asks why she's not answering and why she's avoiding her. Sue speaks through the door and says, "Please leave now, I'll talk to you later." But then Sue's mother opens the door and freezes when she sees Anne. In that moment, all of Anne's childhood memories flash in her mind. Her parents, fights, hiding with her younger brother in the wardrobe, the fear, the shouting. Anne leaves and goes to a cafe. She sits alone, drinking, lost in her thoughts, remembering Sue, remembering their friendship, and remembering the days of Sue's marriage. When she wakes up, she finds herself in Jin's office. He tells her, "I called you to come replace the watch strap. The cafe owner told me I should come pick you up myself because you were making a scene and had fainted." He looks at her and asks, "Did someone hit you or were you hallucinating all night?" She answers, "What would you do if you found out someone close to you was being abused?" His expression immediately changes. When she leaves, one of the delivery workers walks in, and she is shocked by how much he resembles Sue's husband. She leaves quickly, and at the end of the day, she returns to Jin and gives him the new watch strap. His expression softens, and he tells her he wants to treat her to lunch. They go eat together. At the restaurant, she hears news about the Sam customer she had helped in the store, the woman who had bruises on her back. The report says the woman threw herself in front of her husband's car and died. Her coworker calls her to tell her they are all attending the funeral because she was one of their most important clients. Anne is shaken and blames herself. She feels guilty for ignoring the woman's silent plea for help. She calls her mother to make sure she is okay. Then she calls Sue, but Sue does not answer. Anne decides she must go to her immediately. Before she leaves, Jin tells her that woman should have finished her husband off instead of spending her whole life suffering like that. His words stay in her mind. Anne rushes to Sue's house. She enters and finds Sue about to harm herself. Sue tells her she can't live anymore, that she feels her husband will eventually kill her, so she decided she would end everything herself. Anne replies, "No, no, not like this. We're not dying. We're ending him." Now the story rewinds, and we see the Sam events again, but this time through Sue's perspective. Sue is at the airport buying a ticket to leave the country. The day before, she had taken her out and spent the whole day with her. While waiting for the flight, she receives a message from her husband, a video of him harming her mother. He keeps calling her, but she refuses to answer. She breaks down, but still tries to move forward. Then he calls again and tells her, "You have 2 hours from now." She immediately runs back home. When she enters the house, she finds her mother dead. Sue collapses and cries uncontrollably, but as soon as she hears the sound of his keys in the door, her body freezes like a soldier trained to suppress emotion. He walks in calmly. After everything, he casually hands her a bouquet of flowers, acting as if nothing happened. He holds her hand and takes her to their bedroom. She has no reaction left inside her. The next day, she prepares juice for him and brings it to his office. We learn he isn't just abusive, he has extreme obsessive tendencies. He gets irritated because the glass is placed exactly in the center of the tray. Then he notices the wound on her shoulder. With false gentleness, he applies ointment to it. She apologizes, and he asks, "Where would you go anyway? I'd find you no matter what." He leaves for work. After he's gone, she takes her hidden antidepressant. She enters a tiny secret room she built inside the apartment, lies there, and ends up oversleeping. She wakes up terrified because he is almost home, and she hasn't prepared dinner. She panics, rushing around the house. Before he speaks, she starts apologizing. He says he has a surprise. He brings a camera and installs it in the living room. Then he sits and eats, apologizing mockingly for causing her miscarriage last week. Then he flips the table and says, "This was your fault. If you had told me you were pregnant, none of this would have happened. And besides, I didn't even hit your stomach that hard. She apologizes again and says she didn't know she was pregnant either. He answers coldly, "It's fine. I love you." She smiles weakly and says, "I know." We see the moment she tried calling on, but because she was injured and crying, she hung up. The next day, Sue cleans her mother's belongings to store them away. Later, while her husband is eating dinner, he tells her he saw On at the store today and says, "She really annoys me. She shouldn't always be around." Then he gives Sue the gift he bought for her. She loves it and places it in the closet next to many other gifts. These gifts represent how many times he has hurt her. After every beating, he brings a present. Later, he tells her they're going out and he helps her pick an outfit. Each time she tries on something, her bruises show. Finally, he finds an outfit that covers all of them. They visit his mother and Sue listens as his mother gives a speech about domestic violence, talking about how women must support each other and stop such abuse. Her psycho son proudly listens as if he isn't the monster she's describing. After this, Sue gathers courage and gets a medical report documenting all the injuries. She goes to the police station to file a report, but there she runs into her husband's sister, Young, who is a police officer. Sue panics and tries to leave, but a detective accidentally picks up her medical report. Young reads it, understands everything, and follows Sue outside. Young tells her sarcastically, "So, you're here to report on behalf of your friend, right? Tell your friend to handle her personal problems at home. She won't get justice in court." Not right and not wrong. Young knows her brother abuses Sue, but chooses to protect him. Later that day, Sue is having dinner at her in-laws' house. When she reaches for food, a bruise on her arm becomes visible. Her mother-in-law says, "Oh, honey, did you bump into something? Hamda, aren't you paying attention? Fix her up." The truth is, nothing needs fixing except their psycho son and the way she raised him. Young arrives and joins them for dinner. She looks at Sue and asks, "Are you feeling better now?" Her brother is confused by the question. When they return home, he interrogates Sue. She manages to calm him down and tells him she's going out to buy juice. He tells her not to be late. When he opens the fridge, he sees the bottles aren't lined up perfectly. He hits her again. The next day, she prepares his juice again. He's irritated because his stock investments are falling. After he leaves for work, she receives a call from Ehen, but she decides not to answer because of the bruises covering her face. After that, Sue receives a message saying her package has arrived. When she goes outside to get it, she finds Anne still there. Anne forces her way inside and takes Sue into her secret room because of the cameras inside the apartment. Sue insists nothing happened. She only fell, and that's how she got injured. And then she sends Anne away because her husband texted saying he'll come home early. Sue tells Anne, "Please just help me heal fast." When her husband returns, he's irritated and not in the mood for beating that night. He simply falls asleep immediately. A gentle night, like he's taking a diet break from violence. Later that night, Anne sends Sue a message apologizing for being distant recently. She starts sending Sue old photos from their past. Sue remembers everything. Their memories together. The times when Sue was truly alive. The lonely days and the happy ones. How they were always together. After reading the messages, Sue deletes them all and goes to sleep. The next day, her husband takes her to an art exhibition hosted by a woman who works with him. At the gallery, Sue keeps drinking juice non-stop. Then she wanders around, remembering the days when she was still a blooming flower, practicing her passion, painting. She remembers the day her husband found out she was going abroad to display her artwork. He became furious, beat her, and banned her from traveling. Then he forced her to quit art entirely. She stands in front of one of her old paintings with the gallery owner. The owner criticizes her sharply. Sue tries to stay quiet, but when the owner slaps her, Sue's husband steps in and apologizes on Sue's behalf. As he drags her away, she tries to return to apologize again, but she slips and falls on a dining table, causing a scene. Everyone watches as he pulls her outside and pushes her into the car. He drives at maximum speed without letting her wear a seatbelt.
That was the moment she realized she wouldn't survive much longer. That night she returns home and breaks down crying on the balcony, considering harming herself. At that moment, On appears, grabs her and tells her, "I've planned everything, we're getting rid of him." When her husband comes home, On hides inside the wardrobe. He grabs Sue and hits her again, telling her, "If this deal fails because of you, everything you've seen so far will be nothing compared to what I'll do next." He even blocks her manager's call, telling him he'll call back later. Once he leaves the room, On comes out of the wardrobe and Sue breaks down crying, saying On is the only person who can help her. Later that night, Sue attempts to end her life again. When her husband hears the noise, he storms in, panicking. She tells him, "If you want me alive, remove that camera." He pulls it down. Sue grabs scissors to stab herself, but he snatches them and grabs a stick, smashing the camera. Sue sends On a message saying she's ready. On encourages her, telling her they can do it and they're strong enough. On goes to Jean to confront him about what he said at the restaurant, that the abused woman should have killed her husband. On tells him she disagrees, because the government could arrest her. Jean answers, "If there's no husband anymore, there's no government." Then they sit together to eat, but On excuses herself, saying she has an errand. Outside, she meets the delivery worker again and waits for Jean to join her. She tells Jean she changed her mind and wants to eat with him after all. When they leave the restaurant, she sees the delivery worker again trying to avoid the police. Jean asks if he's living illegally in the country. The worker says yes. He has no passport and escaped on a cargo ship. On watches him carefully and records several videos. She shows the videos to Sue. Sue is shocked by how much he resembles her husband. On tells her, all that's left is to find him a travel excuse to China. They decide to use him for their plan. On stops the delivery worker and tells him she will get him a fake passport and arrange his travel to China, and she will pay him a large sum of money. He just needs to follow instructions and ask no questions. The man is shocked that she's offering illegal travel, legal travel, and money all at once. He asks, "But I have one question. Is the man whose identity I'll be using still alive?" Sue panics, drops her cup, and leaves the room. On answers calmly, "Yes, of course he's alive." Meanwhile, her husband overhears his manager saying he wants to remove him from the business deal and replace him. He becomes furious, goes to his office, opens the profile of the gallery owner, and sees a photo of her with On. He checks the security footage from that day, and sees On hiding inside the wardrobe. He goes home and tells So, "We're eating out today. We're something nice." He snatches her phone and messages On to meet them at the restaurant. When the three of them meet, he intentionally spills his drink all over Sue's clothes. Sue goes to the bathroom to clean up. Her husband tries to justify himself to On, saying, "You don't know her. She's mentally unstable. She drives me crazy." When he sees On isn't scared and is talking back, he tells her, "Listen here, sweetheart. Don't stick your nose in things that don't concern you." On responds, "Does that mean you're going to beat her again tonight?" He laughs a disgusting, creepy laugh. Sue returns from the bathroom. He pretends nothing happened and changes the topic to work. He tells her she doesn't need to apologize to the gallery owner, because the owner wants to repay her anyway. Sue agrees to meet her. She goes to meet the woman and tells her, "You don't need to thank me. I only agreed to meet you because of On." They finalize the business deal. Later, Sue receives a message from her husband, saying, "Know your place. Don't interfere in marital matters again if you want your friend to remain safe." He is threatening her. The next day, On receives a call from the delivery worker, saying he accepts the travel job because he misses his son. He meets her in person, gets in her car, and she takes him to the factory. When he steps out of her car, Jean sees him. When Jean asks who he is, the man replies, "Just a friend from my hometown." Then he leaves to shave, dress formally, and prepare for the plan. He goes to meet On outside. She tells him he has something in his hair and brushes it off. At that moment, Young passes by and sees them. She remembers her brother's accusations and becomes more suspicious, thinking, On is messing with someone's husband. She walks past them angrily. Sue and On finalize their plan. They will execute it after her husband's work meeting. After that meeting, he always comes home exhausted and falls asleep immediately. On meets the delivery worker and gives him the first payment. She tells him the exact day of the operation. Meanwhile, at the factory, all the workers are eating. With Jean notices that the delivery worker keeps hiding his phone whenever On calls him, stepping away to speak privately. Another worker comments. He said he's going back to his country soon. Looks like he's saved up the money for the ticket. Jean grows suspicious, and during the call, On tells the man to finish all his work and get ready. She warns him to be careful with his behavior, especially in front of Jean, because Jean can easily notice things. Then she goes to her coach and asks him to help her train, because she needs to improve her self-defense skills. Sue asks her husband for permission to visit her mother with On, and he agrees. During his work meeting, Sue meets On, and the two of them go together to the mountains, where they dig a hole. After finishing, they return. Her husband checks her GPS and sees she didn't go to the nursing home like she had told him. Then he receives a message that an airplane ticket to Tehran has been booked in his name. He gets angry and heads back home immediately. Meanwhile, On and Sue are practicing how to kill him using a rope. He suddenly receives a work task and becomes furious. Unable to see straight, he grabs the rope and starts strangling On, saying, "So this is what you wanted to do to me." But Sue comes up behind him and hits him on the head with the gift he bought her at the beginning of their marriage. Sue loses control and doesn't stop hitting him until her face is covered in red. She looks at On, and On reassures her that their plan is still the same, and that everything is under control. They gently stuff his body into a suitcase, carefully because the suitcase is expensive. They leave him inside the wardrobe to cook until he settles. Later they take him out and clean the crime scene. Sue washes the object she used to hit him with. Feeling emotional, she sees the date engraved on it. The date of the mistake that destroyed her life. Then she washes the clothes again. When she comes out, the house is soaked in air freshener. She sits and continues scrubbing, unable to stop rubbing her hands from stress. At that moment the delivery worker arrives. On lets him in and tells him to dress nicely and prepare himself. Before he leaves, she gives him a watch strap from the deceased, and then hands him the suitcase containing the deceased himself. He carries it out, surprised by how heavy it is. At the same time, Young happens to pass under her brother's building. She goes up and Sue opens the door. Young asks if she can just use the bathroom. After she finishes, she wipes the mirror with a tissue and notices a red stain. She wonders when she injured herself. As she leaves, Sue's tension is obvious. Young steps on a piece of glass on the floor. She picks it up and says, "This must be part of the antique set." She notices it's broken and looks at the walls, saying, "Weren't there decorative plates here? Did they fall or what?" She is confused by all the little details, the broken items, the missing decorations, but strangely is not confused by the bruises covering Sue's face. Meanwhile, On meets the delivery worker and tells him to put the suitcase he carried in the car trunk next to another identical suitcase. She drives him to the airport. At that time, Young sends a voice message to her brother, which ends up in On's hand. She tells him that the police are conducting a small investigation and to behave carefully. She remembers seeing him with On and thinks he was cheating on Sue. She sends another message warning him to straighten up, especially in his personal life. On sees the messages and deletes them. She contacts the delivery worker and tells him, "Once you arrive, send me pictures of the souvenirs." She gives him a second phone and throws away the first one. As he enters the plane, On calls Sue to reassure her and tell her he has departed. Sue begins removing every trace of her husband from the apartment. She throws his belongings away and even breaks the music device he used to play whenever he beat her. She collapses, crying. On makes sure the deceased is safely secured in the car trunk and drives away. On the road, a police car drives beside her, but she stays calm. She picks up Sue, and on their way, they accidentally hit a gazelle. Of course, just what they needed. They clean the car and continue to the mountains. To the hole they dug earlier, they bury the suitcase. Then they drive to an empty area. Sue throws away the object she used to kill him with, releasing all her pent-up rage. They return to the car and drive to the beach. On goes to buy fireworks, and they light them together, celebrating the night as if it were a holiday. They enter a restaurant, eat together, and for the first time it feels like their lives are beginning. Later they sleep in the car. In the morning they check their phones. On finds a message from the delivery worker, a picture of him with his wife and son, telling her he arrived safely in China. They head back. While waiting at a traffic light, a traffic officer notices blood on the front of On's car. He asks her about it. She tells him she hit a gazelle while visiting her grandmother's grave. He says, very convincing. Open the trunk. On panics because she thinks he'll see the shovel and the tools they used for the burial. But when she opens it, the trunk is empty. He tells her to go. They go to Sue's place. Sue goes up to her apartment and starts doing everything she always wanted to do. She turns on the TV and eats in peace. The next day, she trains herself to act surprised about her husband's disappearance. She receives a call from his office asking why he didn't show up. Then Young calls and says she doesn't know where he is either. But something strange happened. His passport and suitcase are missing. Sue pretends to be shocked and asks if he really left the country without telling them. The investigation begins at his office. They discover that he transferred $5 million into his personal account yesterday. His manager says he was obsessed with sealing a major deal and somehow he succeeded. Sue's mother-in-law visits her trying to play the grieving mother role, fussing over the food and asking, "Did my poor son upset you? What made him so stressed?" She keeps blaming Sue as usual. Young reviews the airport cameras and sees the delivery worker arriving and greeting his wife and son. She assumes it's her brother and wonders, how many mistresses does this man even have? She calls her mother and tells her not to worry. He must be enjoying his trip. And when life falls on his head, he'll crawl back to them. The next day, she goes with Sue to the company because the employees accuse the missing husband of embezzling money. After they finish, Young tells Sue, "Don't cause chaos about his disappearance. I'll handle it. He'll be back soon," and leaves. Young calls on and tells her everything is done, and goes to a shop for a fitting. The store owner tells her she looks beautiful today, even though she sees the bruises on her body. Her face is glowing as if she has been freed, and meets Sue and they go out together, eat and enjoy their time. At the end of the day, Anne sits looking through the pictures. She notices her mother never appears smiling in any of the old photos, not even once, so she goes to visit her at dawn. She meets her father first and tells him, "Mom lived all these years without a single smile because of you." And she tells him everything her mother suffered because of his actions. Then she leaves him there and goes to her mother's room. She stands in front of the wardrobe, the same wardrobe she and her younger brother used to hide in, and says to herself, "It's time for both of you to finally come out." She tells her mother she will sell the wardrobe, and she does. Then she buys her mother new shoes, takes her out to a cafe by the sea, and her mother looks truly happy, and films everything. Meanwhile, Sue leaves her building to visit her own mother. She meets a neighbor in the elevator who compliments her, saying she looks lit from within. The neighbor jokes that nothing warms a woman like a man, a universal truth in her mind. Sue spends the day with her mother, puts ointment on her mother's injured hand, and when her mother accidentally touches Sue's old wound, Sue says, "Don't worry. It doesn't hurt anymore." Those words are incredibly deep. Only someone who lived it would understand. Sue returns home and eats with her mother-in-law. Her mother-in-law notices Sue constantly checking the time and trembling. Sue tells her she always feels like he might walk in at any second. Her mother-in-law urges her to go back to work, but Sue says she wants to try something new, something completely different. Jean crosses her mind, so she goes to him, gives him her CV, and asks him for a job. After a few questions, he finds her a position and hires her. The next morning, she dresses nicely, even puts on lipstick. Meanwhile, Anne is in a meeting when she receives a call from the police. They inform her they're opening an investigation into the woman who threw herself in front of her husband's car. They want her testimony to determine whether the husband was involved. Her boss immediately tells her, "Listen, you didn't see anything and you didn't hear anything. We don't want to lose that businessman. He funds this company." That night, Anne is heading home when the businessman's assistant stops her and gives her a gift from the boss, insisting she accept it. She decides to return it, but when she steps outside to give it back, everything falls to the ground. At the factory, Sue is arranging inventory when Jean walks in. He notices the bruises on her body and freezes for a moment. He tells her she can go home. It's getting late. Anne arrives and tells him, "We're going to get lunch. Come with us." The three of them go to the restaurant. Sue is clearly uncomfortable. Suddenly, the businessman walks in. Sue rushes to the bathroom, but he follows her with his bodyguard standing outside. She tells him, "Whatever happens, I'm telling the police the truth." He lunges at her, saying, "This will be your second mistake and the one you'll regret." They struggle. Jean hears the commotion, storms in, beats the man, and takes both Sue and Anne away. Anne explains everything that happened and says she intends to tell the truth. Sue starts crying, saying, "Your life is already ruined and now I came to ruin mine too." Jean says, "All right. Enough mourning. Let's roll the dice." He plays with his dice. The sound calms him. He hands them to Sue. She throws them and he notices she has the same light hands he does. Later, Sue goes to organize the warehouse. Jean tells On that the delivery worker suddenly resigned. He hopes Sue won't do the same. On panics and says she'll go get him some water. As she walks past, she notices the clock on the wall is crooked. She reaches out to fix it, but Jean snaps at her loudly. "Don't touch it." Sue comes running. Jean tells her that clock shows the exact date and time my son died. On and Sue stand shocked. On quietly says, "I also remember the exact date and time of my own child's death." On didn't get her promotion because she testified against the businessman and the case went in a completely different direction. Sue is out shopping and returns home mentally exhausted. She keeps seeing flashes of the night they carried out their plan. The haunting memories don't leave her. She also sees visions of what they did to him. She goes to the grocery store, calls On to check on her, then returns home. As she enters, she hears the sound of her apartment lock opening. Terrified, she approaches. It's the delivery worker, the one who was supposed to be in China under her husband's identity. At first, she pretends she doesn't know him. She threatens to call the police. He laughs and says, "And tell them what? That your dead husband came back to life. I'm the one wearing his identity." He holds her husband's phone. He found it at the airport, picked it up and reset it. He walks around her house and enters her husband's room. He sits in front of the safe and says, "Open it." She tells him she doesn't know the code, and she truly doesn't. Police. She panics and tells him and has nothing to do with this. Her phone rings. It's her mother-in-law saying, "Weren't you supposed to sleep over tonight?" He says, "Perfect. A nice little family meeting." Sue asks, "Don't you want the money?" He says, "Forget it. I'll go talk to her myself." Sue warns him she'll get suspicious. She might call the police. He quickly puts on her husband's clothes and leaves. Downstairs he runs into building security. The guard says, "So you're back. Your mother told me to inform her the moment I see you." The delivery man says, "Yeah, come with me to get something from my car." They head to the garage. Sue follows them secretly. When he pulls a weapon from his car, Sue realizes he killed the guard. She tells him to leave immediately because of the surveillance cameras. She runs back to her apartment, shaking. She gathers all her jewelry and the gifts he used to buy her. No one understands what pushed her to do it. The next day the delivery worker calls her but says her phone is off. When she calls back, he answers and tells her he wants $3 billion in 5 days. He says he forgot the deal, joking. "I don't eat fish often," meaning he doesn't care about promises. Sue calls On, but On's phone is also off. She goes to Sue's building and finds police and neighbors gathered. There's been a serious incident, they refuse to let her in. She asks someone, is the victim a man or a woman? They tell her the victim is the building security guard. When she finally manages to reach Sue's floor, she finds the apartment password has been changed. She calls Jean and asks if he knows the delivery worker's address. He says no, and his suspicion grows. Meanwhile, Sue is at a jewelry shop selling her things. She receives a call from the delivery worker. She tells him she managed to open the safe. Sue then goes to her mother-in-law, Young, at the police station and tells her to investigate the guard's murder because he was suspicious of Seo and now he's dead. Young gets angry, knowing her brother's history well, and scolds Sue. When Sue returns home, she finds On waiting inside. On tells her, "I handled the money. The delivery man won't bother us anymore." On explains to her that the delivery guy might come back again. She tells her, "Wait, I'll find a way to deal with him." But Sue stops her and says, "This is more dangerous than they ever imagined." At the police station, the investigator gives the security guard's notebook to Young. Young rips out every page where he wrote about Sue. When she reviews the surveillance footage, she sees her brother on the screen. She also sees Seo, so she deletes the part where her brother appears. The delivery man goes to On at her store. She looks at him and says, "So you're the psycho. If you want the money, follow me." They go outside and he threatens her, saying he knows where the husband is because of the tracking app he used to spy on his wife's phone. Then he goes to his mother's workplace and makes sure she notices him. After that, he texts her from the dead husband's phone, saying he's being watched, needs money and can't talk. She gives him the money. He texts her again, telling her not to tell anyone she saw him. Jean receives a call from a nightclub. When he arrives, he finds the delivery man there. The waiter tells Jean they called him because they know this guy works for him and he started causing trouble in the club. Jean takes money from his pocket and pays for the damage. Later, as the delivery man gathers his stuff to leave, Jean notices he has 2 phones. He opens one and finds all of Sue's photos on it, her face and body covered in bruises. In the other room, Jin's assistant tells him the delivery guy bragged about exploiting 2 women, blackmailing them, and draining them of money. Jean storms back in while the man is talking and beats him, then leaves him there. Jean calls Sue to check on her and to ask if there's a problem, but she answers first, no, everything's fine, and hangs up quickly. She is sitting there trying different passwords to open the safe. Meanwhile, Jean sits alone, replaying everything and connecting the dots. He finally understands what they did and whispers to himself, all this because of a couple of words I said. Later he sits with An and Sue. Sue tells him the delivery man still doesn't know where the body is, but he's close to figuring it out. We need to get to him before he gets to it, she says. An calls someone to trace his location. She then calls Jean so the other person can track him through the call. At the same time, Sue brings in a specialist who manages to open the safe for her. The delivery man opens a tracking app and finds the exact location they were at the day before the accident. He calls the guy who's been spying on An and says, I found his location, but he moved right away and went to the mountains. An, hearing this, goes to the bank and withdraws every last cent from her card. But the delivery man sends her a video of himself digging in the place he located in the mountains. He calls her and says, your choice of location is insane, artist. Bravo. An plays dumb and tells him, I have the money with me if that's what you want. She goes to meet Sue to tell her that if the delivery guy calls, she must not answer. But Sue isn't there, so who is in the middle? Young, of course. Young remembers when she saw her brother with a woman. That woman was An. She realizes they're close and decides to start following them. An meets the delivery man. He gets into her car. Young follows behind them. An shows him the money and tells him the road is still long. The investigator from the police station calls Young and tells her that her brother's wife appeared in the security footage from the security guard's case. Young replies, sorry, I'm busy right now. We'll talk later. And hangs up. She's on edge because her promotion is in 2 days. Then her mother calls and tells her, your brother was here. Go find him. My heart is aching from the message he sent me. She has her mother forward the message. When Young compares the writing style to her brother's, she realizes it's not him. Meanwhile, in the car, the delivery man wakes up groggy and realizes she's driven him all the way to the Libyan border. He asks, where are we? She doesn't answer. He attacks her and the car veers off. She tries to stop him from getting out, so he presses a weapon against her neck and escapes. He climbs up to the road and finds Young standing right in front of him. What a coincidence. He climbs into her car and says, give me a ride, please. She lets him in and doesn't recognize him. She starts to suspect more strongly that this is not her brother. Her phone keeps ringing. It's the investigator again, and the delivery man sees her caller ID. Then he spots the police badge on the dashboard and realizes what he's stuck in. He tries to open the car door, but she slams the brakes hard and tells him, you walk straight into the trap. Now tell me who you really are. He hits her and runs. She chases him, catches him, grabs his phone and finds all his calls with Sue. Sue is calling An, but An doesn't answer. She remembers An telling her, don't talk to the delivery guy, I'll handle it, and starts to panic. She calls again. This time Young has the man with her in the car and answers An's phone herself. Sue hears Young say his name and instantly hangs up. Then Jean calls Sue and tells her, come to the warehouse, An will come after you. We see that Jin's assistant has been following Young, and he picked up An in his car and brought her back. Young plays back the security footage from the day her brother disappeared. She realizes from the beginning that it wasn't him in the videos. It was the delivery man who has a tattoo on his back. She notices the suitcase he carried when leaving the apartment isn't the same as the one at the airport. The one at the airport was much lighter. She opens her brother's phone, which was with the delivery man, and sees that An is actually Sue's friend, and she had attended the funeral too. When she flips through the photos, she sees Sue's bruises all over her body and realizes Sue is the one who killed her brother. She confirms the mountain location from the video the delivery man took at the factory. Later, An and Sue sit in front of Jean getting scolded. He tells them he will help them. He calls his assistant, who tells him he saw a car behind them earlier. Then turning into a side road, he sends Jean the plate numbers. It's Young's car. Young, meanwhile, has the delivery man stuffed in her trunk. She drives him into a garage, takes his phone, and asks if he has any backup copies. He laughs bitterly and says he doesn't care whether her brother is alive or dead. All that matters is that money loves him. She forces pills into his mouth and leaves him there. Then she goes back upstairs. Her mother asks, did you find your brother yet? Young lies, I'm still looking, I swear. On the other side, Jean gets the car's details and owner. Sue tells him it belongs to Young, her husband's sister. Jean says, I know. Your smartest problem is also your smartest enemy. If she's following you and tracking you, then she already knows everything. The next day, Young is in the chief's office discussing her promotion. The chief warns her that one mistake is enough to destroy her entire career. Young leaves, goes straight to her brother's apartment, and searches every corner. She remembers how the place looked the day after the accident. Then she goes to On's store and asks her about her brother. The clerk tells her, "I've never seen a man love his wife the way he did." On sees Young and comes over, asking another worker to bring some paperwork. On tells Young a husband's love is not measured by expensive gifts, you know. Looks to me like you just want to cover up his crimes. Young gets a call and leaves. On then warns Sue that Young might come to her apartment. Sue rushes home to hide everything. She finds a package she had left sealed. Now it's open. She realizes Young has already been there. She collapses and hits her head. Later, her mother-in-law arrives. When she sees Sue's head injured, she says, "My son did that to her." Sue explodes and says, "Oh, now you act shocked. You knew what your son was doing to me." The mother-in-law, all gentle and fake compassion, replies, "This isn't the time for complaints. He contacted me asking for money. If you see him, send him to me. I'll take care of him." Jin's assistant is watching Young and calls Jean, telling him she probably has the delivery man in her car. Young goes to visit Sue's mother-in-law at home, then says she needs to take a call. She goes down to the garage, opens the trunk, and finds the delivery man still there. She breaks the lock, drags him into her own car, and drives off. Jean follows her. At that moment, Young is sitting with the investigator, acting like the poor, innocent victim. She says, "My brother's wife." Her drama never ends. Can you imagine she actually wanted to file a police report against my brother? Claiming he was hitting her. My brother. The innocent dove with angel wings. As if he could ever do such a thing. Then she receives a call and rushes home, only to find the delivery man gone. We see Jean stopping On and scolding her for what happened. They lock the delivery man inside a storage room. Their mistake, however, is leaving Jin's clueless assistant to guard him. When the delivery man wakes up, he starts rolling on the floor, pretending to be dying, begging for water. The assistant feels sorry for him and goes to bring him some. The moment he enters, the delivery man attacks him, threatens him, forces him up, and makes him drive him out of there. Then he kills him and walks away cold-blooded. He runs into Young and tells her he knows where her brother's body is. He says they can find it together and get rid of On and Sue at the same time. She agrees and lets him into her car. Jean and On learn that the delivery man escaped from the storage room. Meanwhile, Young is already at the mountains, digging for her brother's body. But they only find the gazelles Sue and On hit with their car that night. Young slams her shovel on the ground and tells the delivery man, "You're replacing my brother now." At the same time, Young's fellow investigator is at her office searching around. He finds the medical report Sue submitted. He takes it to Sue's apartment, apologizes to her for not taking action before, and records her testimony for the security guard case. He tells her she doesn't need any more help. But once he leaves, she tears up the medical report and all her documents. She receives a message from Young, a picture of the mountain pit containing her husband's buried body, and a picture of the delivery man tied up. Young writes, "If you don't do exactly what I say, your friend On will pay the price, and I'll make sure your mother pays too. After seeing how much your friend sacrificed for you, I realized you're too good for that worthless man. You deserve a better ending than Emma Nolosi ever got." Young writes a fake suicide letter and prints it. She tells Sue, "Come on sweetheart, start first, I'll help you and I'll spare your friend and your mother." Young sits and looks at photos of Sue and her husband, tearing up. After that, she calls On and asks to meet. They sit and eat together, reminiscing. Then Young says she's going to the bathroom. When she doesn't return, On searches everywhere but can't find her. Sue, meanwhile, is in her car in an isolated area, windows sealed, full of smoke, meant to make her suffocate. Next to her is the fake suicide letter. Young stands nearby, checking that everything is perfectly in place. Sue's mother-in-law calls Jean saying she can't find Sue. Jean takes her in his car and they leave. At the police station, the investigator reviews surveillance footage again and notices a missing segment. He calls Young and questions her. "Your brother appeared in the footage, you saw him, right?" He snaps, "Are you accusing me of deleting the footage?" And that confirms his suspicion. She was the one who erased the recording. He tells her, "Your brother did commit a crime, and I verified the medical report. Your sister-in-law was in fact physically abused." He hangs up. Young's mother calls her saying the police are at the house. Young tells her, "Don't open the door. Don't answer anyone until they leave." The next day, at the police station, we see they've stripped Young of her promotion. Her co-workers give her a quick forced celebration, but it's hollow. She rushes to the place where Sue is supposed to be. But Sue and the suicide letter are both gone. Young gets a message from On, Sue is alive. We then see what happened. The day before, Jean and On found Sue in time and rushed her to the hospital. Young searched every hospital for her but couldn't find her. Finally, On confronts her and reveals that Young forced Sue to attempt suicide in exchange for sparing On and her mother. Young says, "All right then, I've reached what I wanted. If you want to start a war, I'm ready." At the hospital, Jean stays beside Sue while the doctor reassures him she's stable. On brings Sue food. Sue tells her, "These last days I lived with you, they're the only days I ever really lived." On tells her she feels the same. Back at the store, police come to take on for questioning in a bribery case. Young interrogates her, but instead of investigating, she threatens her using On's parents. "Hand Sue over to me and finish this." Then Young receives a message from her chief. "You're implicated in covering up your brother's crimes. I need an explanation immediately." Young tries to excuse herself, clearly panicking. She looks at On, realizing On is the one feeding information to the chief. She lunges at On, but investigators pull her away. Angry and shaking, Young leaves, gets into her car and drives. Her mother calls her, screaming. Young rushes home and finds she has killed the delivery man. We see that hours earlier Young's mother had entered the storage room and found him lying there. She thought he was her son, but when he spoke, she realized he wasn't. In his arrogance, he said her son used to exploit women for everything. The mother snapped. She hit him repeatedly until he died. She called Young for help. Young lifts the delivery man's body. This time her mother is the killer, puts him in the trunk. Jean receives a call from his assistant with updates about Young. Jean tells him to follow her. He tells On that Sue should stay put while he and On go after Young. On begs him to let her go instead. He reluctantly gives her the car keys and tells his assistant to protect her. Jean goes to get Sue and the chase begins. Jin's assistant blocks Young's car while On comes from behind and floors the accelerator. Sue, meanwhile, is at the police station, confessing to killing her husband. The scene cuts back to On smashing Young's car, the trunk popping open, the corpse spilling out in front of everyone, and the cameras catching everything. Sue completes her testimony, confessing everything, including Young's involvement. The case goes public and reaches the chief and investigators immediately. On is interrogated and confesses everything she did. Young and her mother are arrested, dragged out under a storm of angry people shouting at them. In court, Sue reveals everything she lived through with her abusive husband. She says, "If I hadn't done what I did, my suffering would have continued until today. And even if I must pay any price for my mistake, I accept it." On speaks too, saying she spent her whole life hiding from what was happening to her mother. Nothing ever changed, so she vowed never to turn her back on anyone hurting her or her loved ones again. The sentences are delivered. During Sue's prison sentence, her mother visits. She tells her she finally left her husband, Sue's father, and moved into a nursing home. She says she should have done it long ago but caused everyone emotional pain by staying. On apologizes and says, "Every time you came back, you only came back because of me. I thought I needed a father. I didn't understand." She thanks her mother for everything. Later, we see On with Jean after her sentence is resolved. They go to pick up Sue on her release day. Jean jokes about needing to deliver merchandise. The three of them then travel together to China and start a new life and work there. They are happy. Sue returns to painting again. The lesson is simple. There's always light at the end of every tunnel, even if the ones working there are as crazy as the ones in the story. If you come to the end, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Thanks for watching.